just for the people that just joined. There are a couple of reminders that we want to give you. Well, first, that we have simultaneous translation available in Spanish and Portuguese, and I'm going to we want to thank our partner Quixote and our amazing interpreters graduate of the course. You can check their information in their Instagram account. And also, well, if you see the world icon, you can choose the language of your preference. And well, also to remind you that if you haven't see the full program, we invite you to check the times and the remaining sessions, and we invite you to stay for as many sessions as you can. We are going to be here 24 hours, so please stay with us. And also, it is very important to say that we want this to be a safe space for us and to interact together and think together, and also to respect others' perspectives. There is the discrimination of harassment are in any form will be tolerated. So we have a code of conduct that applies to all sessions of Women Who Futures, that it's in the chat as well. And well, as you know, even though that this is Women Who Futures who are presenting, the space is welcome for everyone who wants to join and hear for all the amazing women that are going to be in this space. And also we have a Miro board that we have been building since our first session. And you're more than welcome to fill the information that you want, like any thoughts, any quotes that stuck with you. That would be amazing if we continue doing that. So saying that, now Gabby, the floor is yours, and if you can introduce yourself and just start your magic.
Hi, Abril, and thank you everyone for the invitation. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Gabriela Salinas. I'm a strategic designer from Mexico, and I want to share my screen. Give me just a second. Let's see. So let me know if you can see this now.
Yes, perfect.
Amazing. So I'm going to talk about designing futures in crypto, creativity, and feminist foresight. So I'm a strategic designer. Let me go to the next slide. I'm currently working at Bitso. It's a crypto startup. I'm also co-founder of an NFT project. I'm going to be talking mostly about these two things for some projects that I've been doing in the couple of years, the most recent years, but I previously worked at finance for a while, for more than 10 years. So GBM is a brokerage house in Mexico. BBVA, it's a very big bank from Spain. Idea Couture, it's a Canadian consultancy, kind of like Ideal from Canada. And Face was a design agency from Monterrey. I also founded Service Design Mexico Front Stage Conference. These were two initiatives that wanted to push forward service design in Mexico. And I've been teaching a lot. I have a Domestica course on service design. I've been teaching at Ibero and Centro University. I studied graphic design, but I also have a master in business innovation and a specialty in features design from Centro, where I met Abril here. She was my classmate. And I have like mostly 4 topics that I want to cover. The first one is why features thinking in fintech matters. And it's going to be like the basis for the next 2 topics, which is the projects that I'm going to be digging deeper, which is the futures of crypto in 2035, and the project of Acmé, which is an NFT, and how NFTs can be a tool for reclaiming narratives, and a couple of takeaways at the end. And also, like at any time, if you want to start putting some comments or questions in the chat, we can address them at the end. So feel free to, at any point, put your thoughts there. So why futures thinking in fintech matters? So just some information. I was telling you that I studied graphic design and I graduated 15 years ago in 2010. And at the time I just focused on making beautiful things, like I wanted to do branding and logos and magazines and websites. And I didn't really care about like anything else, like caring about, for example, the strategic part of design. This was not something that was in my radar at that time. And I think that as designers, a lot of us started there, and then we started to evolve our career and to think more critically about the impact that our work has. But to me, like just thinking about the future, it was very hard at the time. Something that I think a lot is like how your context shapes the way that you think about the future, and how sometimes it can be really hard to think about it when the present seems very dark. So I'm from Monterrey, this city in the north of Mexico. It has been ranked as the most polluted in the world several times over the past years. And it has so many issues. Like 2 years ago, we reached day zero. That means that we were out of water. It was one of the cities that ran out of water in the world. And we also have like very high temperatures, like extreme heat has affected us several times. And just like the news of the 917 fires in just 7 days, this was this month. So this is something that is happening in the present and has always been in my reality living in Monterrey. Politicians don't do anything. Like on the bottom, you can see it's our first lady from the city. She's more concerned on selling air purifiers that the average Mexican cannot afford. Like she's an influencer. And also rental prices are rising. It's become one of the most expensive cities in Mexico. It's part of the area of the city. There's a space called San Pedro, which also ranks as one of the most wealthy cities in Latin America. So there's a lot of discrepancy of the things that we're living at the present moment. And so you can see, like, this was a screenshot that I took today at 5 in the afternoon. The air quality, we have been in purple so many days of the past years. This is not a way to live, really. Like it's becoming unbearable. Like imagine being in a city that is so hot, there's no water, you cannot breathe air, and corporations are making so much money. Like this is happening here, and they don't even emit the alerts where you cannot go outside. People should not be outside doing exercise or enjoying the outdoors because it's so polluted. And then you take a look at movies or images of the future around us, and they seem as dark as the present or even darker. So I think that consuming media, it's also hard. And when you're trying to be a designer that is trying to promote a positive future where people, your users, your clients, and yourself can thrive, it's hard. And I didn't realize like the impact of this until I studied my specialty in features design. This was 2018. And it really changed my perspective on the way that I was working, on the way that I was designing things. I was like, I cannot just do beautiful logos. I need to do something that has a bigger impact in the world. So a very interesting exercise that we did while we were studying was the Pollack game. If you're not familiar with it, you need to position yourself on this matrix where you see, like you can say if you think that the future will be positive or negative, and also if you have some agency about it, like if you can do something about it or not. And I guess that I was like for a long time in my life just feeling very negative about the future and feeling like hopeless, like I cannot really do anything about it. But I think that for me, just getting to understand futures design and foresight methodologies made me feel a little bit more hopeful, or at least more agentic on how can I have some responsibility and what's my part in the change that I want to see. And I think that as designers, we have the responsibility to imagine better futures. And we have tools. We have the tools to create better images, to shape the future that we want. And the future is just not something that happens to us. We're part of building it and shaping it. So for me, this was interesting. And I'm talking about designers because this is what I do, but I think it applies to everyone. Like, we are all actively designing the work that we're doing. If we're working at companies, if we're working in academic settings, whatever, like, even not like just visual designers, but I think that in my case, for example, I'm a strategic designer, so I stopped doing visual design, I stopped doing beautiful things, but I still conceptualize products and services for the companies that I work for. And it's important to think about how the work that we do impacts the company, how it impacts the users, how are we using metrics to measure success of the things that we're doing, and how all of this plays a role into the future that we want to achieve. And thinking about the fintech world, and this is just a bunch of memes. I really love collecting memes. I think that they are an amazing tool to reflect the collective mindset. And sorry that most of them are in Spanish, but to me, these reflect the financial dreams and worries that Mexican millennials have. So I've been working in finance for 10 years now. And I think that this topic is deeply intertwined with thinking about the future, like your finances, like being able to create a budget, planning for your retirement, saving money, investing, making it grow over time. It's future thinking, no? It's, you have to think about your money in the future, and even just comparing our situation with the past as well. Like, we can compare the economy with what our parents lived, and we can see here, like, for example, the first one that has the smiley cat, it says, smile, let no one know that you only have 8 pesos in your card. Or how to have fun without money, you go to sleep. Or the one like my parents at 30 is like, let's have another kid and buy a truck. And it's like, yes. But me at 30 is like, with a bunch of weird people, like, let's get another roommate. Or the other cat at the right is like, life as grown-ups is like, every time you're saving 4,000 pesos, you have an emergency that costs 14,000 pesos. So for me, these are obviously funny. I think that we need an outlet from the frustration that a lot of people are feeling in their financial lives. But it's also interesting, like, from an anthropological perspective and a researcher perspective, like, this is in the mindset of people that are trying to save money and to invest. And being a person that has worked at companies that focus on saving and investing, I worry about this. I want to help people with this. I think it's very important. And when I joined this industry, it was clear to me that I wanted to have an impact in people, because we know that less than 30% of Mexicans save money. And when they save money, they do it mostly informally. Like, a lot of people save under the mattress, or they save in tandas, for example, which is an informal part of in saving and investing in Mexico. And even less people, less than 10%, invest. And having a future depends on how we manage our money. And I think that for me, in a personal level, I was on a path that is very similar to a lot of middle-class Mexicans. I wanted to have a better life, and that involved studying a master's, moving to a bigger city, getting married, starting my business to achieve financial independence faster, and to eventually being able to buy a home in this economy. I think that this is like very popular dreams that a lot of people follow in our country. And I think, I don't know if it was partly consciously or unconsciously, I was aligning my career to these wishes. Like I wanted to learn how to achieve these dreams for myself and also help other people achieve this. So after moving to Mexico City, I started working at BBVA. A little bit afterwards, I got married. I started working at a brokerage at the GBM, and now I'm working at crypto. So working in fintech has helped me personally, but also getting into this world has made me see ways in which companies can help people achieve their goals too. And I think it's hard because we have a lot of barriers to this, like culturally, like Mexicans don't think about money. Like we don't talk about money. We don't talk about money with our families. We don't talk with it with our friends, with our partners. Even like if you're married, I have so many married female friends that they don't really know how much their partner is earning, and they don't share their finances, and there's no culture of financial education while you're growing up. Like it's a taboo. You do not talk about this with your parents, and especially if you're a woman, it's not a topic that you discuss or you should have an opinion. And this is from the people side. I think from the side of companies, most don't really care about helping middle class or low class people because they don't generate revenue. And this is very hard to realize when you're trying to work at these companies and you want to make an impact. Because obviously to be a profitable company, you need to survive, you need to have revenue. This is fine. This is obviously like they, as a company, they need this. But in order to achieve this revenue, they probably focus on the high earning population that can invest and save and generate yields for these companies. So when I was studying the futures design specialty, I was the director of design at the brokerage. And we were tasked with designing the new app. And this new app, we at the time, this company, they had 3 different apps. One was for savings, one was for investing in funds, and one was for traders, like stock trading. And they wanted to have like one super app. And this was my main project. The almost 3 years that I worked there, we worked on building this product. It was very difficult. We did a lot of research, probably one of the biggest research projects that I've done. A lot of one-on-one interviews with users, very huge sample of users to understand their motivations, their dreams, their pain points. It was amazing just getting to know a lot of Mexicans. And we created user personas to design some of the features that we had in the app. But I think that companies, they usually think very short term, like we're talking about the week sprints that we have, or probably like this Q or the next quarter, or if we're lucky in the year planning, like what's gonna be the plan for next year. And I was studying the postgraduate, and I wanted to really see what the C-levels had in mind for the company in the next 10 years. And one day I had the opportunity to talk with the CEO, and I was so excited. I was like, somebody here is probably thinking about the future of the company. It's not me, it's probably the CEO. So let's see what he has to say about this. And I was asking him, like, what do you think will happen with this company in 10 years? And his response really shook me. He says, like, I have no idea because I will be longing to retirement by that time. So he was 60 and he was retiring in 5 years. So who cares about 10 years? I'm not gonna be here. And to me, like this really radicalized me. Like if you have like these inflection points in your career that makes you radical, I think that was probably one of it. Like, how can you work at a company that is supposed to help people build long-term wealth if you cannot plan the direction that you want to take the business towards in the next 10 years? So I tasked myself in caring about our users' future. And for this project, I wanted to expand the definition that we have of our users, because we had an idealized concept of the upper middle class and the upper class Mexicans. But more and more middle class and upper middle class are opening investing accounts, and they want to achieve their dreams as well. So, and I'm saying like investing is long-term thinking. So something that I wanted to do is understand like these profiles and how can we move them towards quadrants that we want them to be, like saving more money, being more sophisticated in their knowledge and their understanding, and more disciplined in taking care of their money. And we know that sometimes these type of changes, they are behavioral changes that they're gonna take a while, and this is gonna happen throughout the life of these people. And this was also a big change that I wanted to instill in this company, that we want to do customer journey maps, but the customer journey maps, they just show how people use the app. And I think that the type of change that we want these people to have, it follows users over their lifetime. So we need to follow them. Sometimes we interview these users and then we never talk again with them, and we don't really know in the future if they change things. So unfortunately, I could not do this in this company. I changed jobs, but I'm gonna talk about some more recent projects now, and the ways that I have been practicing more of this at my work. And one of these is a crypto foresight project that is more systemic and more financial focus as well. And the other is a personal project that is the NFT, that is more about emotions and feminism. So for the crypto in the future, this was a project that I did last year. So as part of the strategic planning efforts that we have at this crypto company, I proposed to do a foresight project, and this was kind of like a personal project. I did this mostly by myself, which is not something that you should be doing when you're doing foresight or futures work, but this was something that I wanted to push. And sometimes you have to push things on the sidelines and a little like on your free time, so people can see what it is about and understand the value of it, so they can invest more resources in the future. So this was like planting a seed in this company again to think about the future. And the way that I solved this idea was like, I'm gonna identify opportunities that can shape the company's product development backlog that we have in the present, but informed by visions of the future that the company can have. And we created a little brochure of ideas. And it was a challenging project. Definitely one of the challenges is that crypto is changing very fast. It's an industry that it is evolving every second, and making long-term predictions can be challenging. I can see like some of the things that we presented there seems to be getting closer and closer, especially with AI. And I'm not gonna dig deeper into the results, unfortunately, because obviously we're still working on that. It's a little bit confidential, but I'm gonna go more on the process and some general things that we discovered. Stakeholder alignment was another very important thing, that I needed to engage different stakeholders to validate all the information that they have, their insights, their assumptions. And for this, I needed to do a lot of facilitation work, and I was the sole driver of this. So I just had to push with a lot of people. So kind of like the process that I follow is that I already had a lot of work with the current role that I have. I've been doing user research for more than 2 years, and we already had user personas that we created. So leveraging all of the foundational research that I did in the previous years, user personas, we have jobs to be done. So making sure that these were used. I did a signals and trend scan. I mapped out a lot of these things, just reviewing, like, we are a remote company, we use Slack, and everyone is constantly posting like news and things. So I gather like what was there, what were people talking about, and also like some reports on crypto, probably some reports on AI, on blockchain. and some documents that the CEO has been doing every once in a while with his vision. And with this, I identified some dimensions. We had key dimensions that we wanted to explore, and finally created some scenarios for this. And for the user personas, we had these 4 users. They are based on actual research. So over the past years, I think we interviewed more than 200 Latin American users. And the current users that we have is Lina and John. They are currently in the present 35 years old. They are millennials. And we have 2 of these because they have different profiles. So John is more like an explorer, is a user that it's really into crypto, and they read the white papers, they go to the crypto events. And Lina is a little bit more, let's say, convenient. She doesn't have time for this. She has the app, but really does not get too much time in it. So we wanted to explore how will they evolve in 10 years. And then we have Ariel, which is 35 years old, Gen Z, and Lucas, which is 25, is currently a 15-year-old, is Gen Alpha. And since this moment, to me, I wanted to start getting into the work a little bit of consideration for inclusion, like making sure the features that we have are as inclusive as possible. To be honest, like more than 80% of the customers are men, like most people in crypto are men, around 35-year-old men. But I wanted to include Lina because I want to see also like what will be the perspective of a woman's managing her money in the future. And the other thing that we wanted to bring into this project was having a non-binary person. So Ariel, in this case, is non-binary. And this is also something that we wanted to see when we were gathering some signals and trends. So we started gathering them, what will happen, like you can already buy NFT concert tickets, or your kids are getting paid to do chores in their home. So we were crossing like the trends with the user personas. And we also had like these key topics that I was talking about. So these dimensions, there's a lot of stuff going on in these dimensions. So what's happening with identity and how identity connects with the way that you manage your money. Machine intelligence obviously is a big topic. The way that you are the custody, like how are you managing your money, if it's a company that is managing or you're managing it. So with this, we did a lot of workshops with stakeholders. And we eventually defined some ideas, and I built them into scenarios. And so the documentation looks kind of like this. They are little stories that have like the dimension on one side, like for example, let's say identity, some trends that get involved in this scenario, and then some visualizations and stories of what's happening in here and how the company can create some products that help users in this. And I did these mid-journey illustrations that I think they also helped visualize the concepts that we had. And I think that, like, to me, like something that really stood out is that in crypto, you're talking about decentralization and how the finances are not going to be eventually managed by the banks, but by people. Like people will have ownership about their money and their finances. But we need to close some gaps in financial inclusion for this to happen. A lot of people are afraid of this, like they are afraid to manage their own money. They are afraid of technology. And also like crypto is associated right now kind of like gambling. It seems like gambling for a lot of people. Like it's very volatile, and a lot of people think about it for short-term gains. And making a shift to think about freedom and achieving your goals, it's going to take a while, and we wanted to reflect that into these scenarios and just make it as inclusive as possible and see how can people really feel empowered with their money. And think an important takeaway from this project is that the tools and the methodologies that we use, like these artifacts, like doing these scenarios, they are very visible, but I don't think they are as powerful as I wish. I think that the most important thing is how can we be sure that the company has a mindset of thinking about the future, and this is more invisible and probably more difficult to achieve, and it's going to take a while, but doing these little efforts eventually I think will lead to be sure that future thinking is a way that we think about in this company. And I also want to talk about the other project. This is a personal project. I'm gonna start with like just some context about NFTs also if you're not familiar with this, but tokenizing things just means that you can explain that you're the owner of something in the blockchain. So you can be the owner of a piece of art, which is the most popular case of the NFTs, but it can also show that you are the owner of your home, of your car. It has a lot of use cases that it will be explored in the future. But right now I'm going to talk about the art use case and for the NFTs, and what happened in the last 2 or 3 years is that the NFTs is also an industry that is male dominated, and we can see here that more than 85% of the NFT project creators are men. And also a lot of collectors of NFTs or let's say investors were men. So it's very male dominated industry. Since I was working in crypto, I started to get involved into this, and I had a curiosity because as designer, I obviously love art. I collect art. I don't know if you can see like on the back of my wall, but I have like my whole house is filled with work from my artist friends, and I wanted to also have a digital collection. So I started as a collector. And these are like the most popular NFT projects. And I don't want to bias anyone. Like this, if you have an opinion of this, put it in the chat. Like, what do you think when you see this? And be honest. Like, I think, in my opinion, is that obviously it's a very male-dominated industry, and when most decision makers in an industry look the same, we end up designing for a very narrow slice of humanity. And like what I see here is like memes, obviously, and then women being objectified if they ever appear in any collection. And I don't know, I think that when people think about NFTs, they think about speculation, about just like flipping images for profit. And I think NFTs are not just financial assets, they are powerful tools for identity, for storytelling, and for empowerment. What a lot of these projects wanted to do was to create communities where people had something in common and they could spend time talking, enjoying their time, like the Bored Apes, the famous Bored Apes, they go on yachts and they invite Snoop Dogg and they have Justin Bieber and they have fun. Like this was for them their identity and what they wanted to push. So how can we use NFTs to amplify narratives that are more inclusive and especially like for me, obviously it was about women. There's a lot of other projects that focus on different types of inclusion, but I think that the same way that I was talking before about memes, I think that memes and NFTs and the images that we share on social media as our profile pictures, they say things about our culture and what we're valuing as humans. So I started getting curious to see how can a project change a little bit of what's happening while also playing within the realms or the rules of this industry. So how can we use NFTs as a medium for representation or not just profit or hype? So now I'm going to talk about the project. I did this project with Violeta Hernandez. She's a friend of mine. She's an amazing artist, illustrator, painter, ceramist. She has been doing art for a lot of years now, and she is always focused on the female body. And we started talking about this because actually like some crypto bros reach out to her and they said like, can you make art for a project? And she once wrote to me like, Gabby, do you know about NFTs? Like a lot of people are writing to me and asking me if I can make the art for their project. And I told her like, let's get together. I'm gonna tell you everything about NFTs. But I think that if you want to do a project, you should be the owner of your project and to push the ideas that you want, like not just create something for someone else. So after talking about this, she loved the idea and she said like, I want to do this project with you. And I jumped on the boat and we started this project. We didn't know it was going to be so difficult. At the time, the projects of NFTs, they were collections of 10,000 images. So how can we create 10,000 artworks that are based on the same character, but they are all different and they have representation of the type of women that we want to show in this project? So we worked for almost a year on creating these characters. They are called the ethereals. And the ethereals, they have different sizes of bodies. We have a bigger body, a more linear body. They have different skin colors. We wanted to represent different skin colors and even create some more whimsical ideas of skin colors. We have a blue type of skin that is more like alien. So not all of them are like humans. And we wanted to represent also imperfection and make it beautiful. So they have freckles, they have moles, they have like vitiligo, for example. These women also have tattoos. They are against the system. They have like, they express themselves in the way that they showcase themselves, and they are not afraid to do it. Some of them have different hairstyles, hair colors. So we have more than 300 different types of hairs, for example, in this case, just to create like these different variations. We had, I think it was like 50 types of hair, and then they changed colors. So this ended up having like 300 variations of the hair that we wanted to promote, and obviously all types of hair. And then the clothing, a lot of the clothes were designed by Violeta, but we also invited fashion designers, local fashion designers from Monterrey. We wanted to showcase also the talent that we have, and they are all female fashion designers. So this was also important. How can they represent their style in this? And just before we jump into the more explanation, these are some of the ones that were purchased by collectors. We were only able to sell 400 of them from the 10,000 that we had. And we realized that even though we had a very interesting process and had a lot of fun, and we started doing a lot of community events, also like the male-dominated industry is a male-dominated industry, and just trying to push and sell this was very hard. We sold a lot in Mexico, which was amazing because a lot of people that approached us, they were collectors from Violeta's art and friends of our project, and they wanted to buy some of the art, but they didn't understand NFTs, they didn't have crypto, they didn't have a wallet, so just onboarding people on this was very difficult. But I think that connecting it again with Foresight for us, obviously doing this, we wanted to reflect our personal view, but we also did a lot of inspiration, like looking at trend reports, like what's trending with makeup, with hair, with clothing, storytelling, obviously, like this, for us, this is like prototyping an artifact of how do we want the future of women to look like, and kind of like, yeah, like propose this, like exploring this and making sure that we reflected something. And another, I think, a very important part of this is that having a narrative is just not about what you're visually seeing. It's also like the characters. We made sure that all of them had different names and last names. This was also very tasking. Like obviously we used AI to brainstorm a lot of combinations of names, and not a single one has the same combination of names. And then they also have some stats with personality and emotions, emotional intelligence, empathy, introspection, magic, mental health, and self-love. And the idea is that if you connect with one of these characters, you can help them achieve their highest self. It was the mantra of the project. How can you achieve your highest self? So we created a very beautiful community with this, and the kind of like the most important things that we reflected is like, how can this become part of your digital identity, and connect with these characters that are women, that are not just like the monkey smoking the joint. So people express their identity through the images in social media, and they become cultural artifacts. And the other very important thing in NFTs, I think, is like the independence of artists being their own, like the person that is selling their own art without like middlemen in the process. I think it's very important. And just, I wanted to close this part with some images of what we achieved. We had several exhibitions in Mexico City, in Monterrey, in New York. The one on the bottom right is from an exhibition in New York 2 years ago. We were invited to a lot of conferences on NFT events, and just gathering the women. Then you go to these events and you have like a forum filled of 500 men, and then you start spawning the women and you talk about your project, and they become part of the community. And this was like really amazing for us. These are other images from events that we had in Mexico City. We were invited to some universities to talk about how can you design this type of projects. And the last two images on the bottom right, they were from last year. For us, it was kind of the closing of this project. We went to NFT New York City, which is the biggest NFT conference in the world, and we were exhibited there. You can see me here next to the piece that we had. And we also had a showcase in Times Square, just kind of like a dream come true. And this project ended because obviously we couldn't break even. We invested a lot of time and effort, and this was a personal project, and this was an exploration, but it was also like we had day jobs. We couldn't focus full time on this, so we need to move forward and do other things. But we had a lot of good memories from this. We made a lot of friends, and I think that just planting a seed in how can an NFT project be different for us, that was good enough, and to challenge the narratives that this industry has. Just to finalize and see what are all the comments that you're leaving and the questions. Some takeaways, I think, for me, especially if you're working in a corporate setting, in a startup or at a company, futures thinking is not a phase in a project, or it's not just something that you do once. I think it's a mindset that you need to embed in a company. And if we only use it as a tool every once in a while, I think that we're missing the opportunity to actively shape the future of the work that we're doing. And I think that the future is always being designed, whether we participate or not. So I think this is more an invitation to get involved in any type of project that you're working on, to bring a perspective on the future. My reflection on specifically the industry of crypto and NFTs is that both industries, they promise change. They promise decentralization, ownership, empowerment. But I think that a real transformation requires intentional design. I think that the reality is that fintech, crypto, and all of these industries, they are being defined by men right now. The crypto bros, the tech bros, the finance bros. And the question is, how can we be sure that the financial inclusion happens and artists are represented, all types of artists are represented, and all types of perspectives on the future are represented, and how can we build this for everyone? So if you're a designer of your work, if you're working on these industries, I think it's up to us to influence what comes next and not just wait with our arms crossed and see what happens. And technology alone doesn't create better futures, people do. I know that right now we have a lot of tools that can help us, like AI, for example. But we need to involve people, understand people. To me, like always having this practice of gathering signals of, even if it's just checking memes, to me, like checking memes and having like a memes folder is enough for me to understand what's in the mindset of people. I think that's very powerful. So I hope that this is something that everyone here is doing. And that's it. Thank you. And I don't know if there's questions or comments.
Thank you, Gabby. We have a couple of questions in the chat. The
Super.
first one is from Eva, and she's asking about if when you're talking about crypto, you're talking about coins.
Yeah, well, the most popular crypto is Bitcoin, obviously. But yeah, mostly.
And Liliana, she's asking if you have any online course or book recommendations on futures and foresight.
Good question. I think probably a lot of people here can recommend different things, but I like I have it here. Give me a second. For the future, I like it a lot. Leading sense making. My cat joined the session. Leading sense making in the age of hyper change. It has a lot of like activities. I think there's a lot of books that probably have like this type of like process, step-by-step process. This is the one that I recommend.
Thank you. Does anyone has another question?
I actually have one, if that's okay.
For sure.
Thanks, Gabriel. Gabriela, good to see you. And sorry, no video, just audio. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. So if you were to suggest some courses or programs for people who don't speak English, so you'll see some of the people in this room are from other places in the world. For example, from Latin America, where you happen to be, where would you recommend someone learn about foresight or la perspectiva from, locally, either in Mexico or in Colombia or in another country in Latin America? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, Paula. So I think that the one that I'm going to recommend is the one that I studied. It's the one that I'm most familiar with. It's in Centro, and it's Diseño del Mañana, it's called. University Centro, it's in Mexico City.
Mm-hmm. And are there any online resources in Spanish that you would recommend people might want to engage with or encounter as a resource to begin their search or their interest in this learning process?
That's a good question. I think that probably I consume a lot of media in English. I don't have something that comes to mind in Spanish, but let me take a look again at my resources, and I'm gonna share it, Abril, if that's okay. Like maybe we can share later with the attendees a list of resources.
Yes, of course.
I don't
Thanks
know,
so much.
Abril, if you have a recommendation on the Spanish materials.
I think the journal, the academic journal from Centro, Economía Creativa. Well, Centro, it's a university on the creative industries, and also where Gabby and I study our postgraduate program, and they combine the creative industries, specifically with AI, NFTs, anything that has to be with new technologies, and also futures. So probably, and it's in Spanish. So probably that could be a very good resource. I'm going to
That would
share.
be great. And if you find any other journals, I'd like to be able to recommend some of this to friends who don't speak English and who would like to learn about foresight in their own language before they decide to take the next steps.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. I don't know if anyone else have a question, or are we okay? Well, thank you so much, Gabby, for being here. We
Thank you.
appreciate a lot your participation here. It's very valuable.